Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Winans. I'm a PhD student at Arizona State University in Linguistics and Applied Linguistics. Welcome to my L2DL presentation on syntactic modifiers for email politeness. Email requests are made by students to their teachers, and this can be a difficult task, even for native-speaking students who wish to strike the appropriate tone for politeness that adheres to the norms and considers the power dynamics within the context of that relationship. In 2007, it was observed that email has become a viable alternative means of communication, providing the convenience of obtaining clarification, feedback, and permission almost instantly when students need it. Well, what about 2018? Is email still really alternative? In a university teaching context, email is the primary means of communication outside of the classroom. Making requests of professors has become a primary purpose of sending academic emails for students, which is why the request has drawn considerable attention in research on academic emails. Shim 2013 states that the ability to write polite, status-congruent academic emails is increasingly important on the internationalized campuses in Korea. But not just in Korea. Really, this skill is important in careers and campuses across the globe. Second language learners need to become able to accomplish goals as social actors who do not just need to get things done, but they need to get them done appropriately by taking into account the socio-cultural context. Students often make requests that will help them accomplish goals in your classroom. They should be taught how to write appropriately for this context. Shim 2013 analyzed 3 native-speaking professors who read 150 requested emails from multilingual English speakers. 71% of those emails were rated as inappropriate or impolite. Requests were too direct, they lacked softeners, and more direct than necessary. And those direct linguistics form left them with a negative impression of the email and, by extension, the email writer. Professors perceive these students' emails to be inappropriate and even rude. Zhu 2012 compared the difference in email requests between students who are English majors and those who are not. Non-English majors use more direct strategies than English majors, and the non-English majors use fewer and more limited syntactic and lexical mitigation devices for enhancing politeness than did the English majors. The pedagogical implication is that politeness strategies need to be taught explicitly. This year, I conducted a study that was an analysis of email requests that students made of their teacher, me. The unit of analysis looked at syntactic modifiers of request of head acts. A head act is the minimal unit which can realize a request. I had 42 participants for native and near native English users. I had 31 students, which produced 56 email requests. And for multilingual English users, I had 11 students, which generated 10 email requests. Those numbers right there are also something that could be analyzed. The willingness to make a request of teachers as well. Syntactic modifiers for politeness that I focused on are the use of past tense, grammatical progressive aspect, or sentence embedding. Now, these do not change the pragmatic meaning of the request, but they serve to distance the writer from the request, which is one method that relates to increased politeness. I used 2007 Beisenbach and Lucas adaptation for syntactic modifiers. They focused on past tense, progressive aspect, and embedding. For past tense, the idea would be that you would use I was wondering instead of I am wondering, or using the word could instead of can. Progressive aspect requires the be verb plus ing, so instead of I wonder, you could use I was wondering. And then, of course, embedding is when you take the request and you embed it within a sentence. The multilingual request head acts did not show any aspects of syntactic modification, at least not in the realm of the analysis. There was not one instance of past tense, not one instance of grammatical progressive aspects or sentence embedding. So most of the analysis that will be done on native and near native speakers and their emails, and what came out of their emails that had to do with these syntactic modifications. So I was able to find past versus present tense in our native and near native English users, the difference between I was curious and I am curious, so was versus am using the past tense. For sentence embedding, there's several different ways that they did this. I wanted to know, it would be greatly appreciated if, I cannot seem to figure it out, I just didn't know, and then they go on to make the request. Next, we have grammatical progressive aspect. It's interesting, I did not actually sort these, but they appeared in the data in a row like this. I had several that were I was wondering and I was wondering if, that just happened to be together within the data, which I found kind of fascinating. So from the near native and native users of English, they used past tense 39% of the time in their emails. They used for grammatical progressive aspect almost a quarter of the time. And they used embeddedness almost half the time, 45%. 45% of the time they were writing emails, they were actually embedding the request within a sentence. And there's over a third of the time they used a combination of two or more of the syntactic modifications. Multilingual students would benefit from explicit email instruction. Bardovi and Harlig and Stinger, 2017, call for the teaching of conventional expressions that are commonly used by native English speakers. So the implication is that there are some common usages that I found within the native and near native English users. And those lexical bundles or lexical shells could be explicitly taught to multilingual English users. So they could use, I was wondering if I could, and then they make the request, or I was wondering if you could make the request, or I was wondering if you would make the request. What's interesting about these particular lexical shells or lexical bundles is that they use all three syntactic modifications, past tense, grammatical progressive aspect, and sentence embedding. This allows them to kind of bootstrap up to where they acquire this language and are able to modify it and incorporate it more naturally. But it gives them a starting point, and it allows them to be pragmatically polite with the teacher, so to ensure that they strike the right level of politeness. I also broke down this structure using X-bar theory. So in X-bar theory, we have the tense phrase and the determiner phrase here. So the tense is past, was, so I was. Here's the progressive phrase, and the progressive requires the be verb. Here we have the verb phrase with the determiner phrase originating here, so the verb phrase, internal subject hypotheses, and then it moves up. And then you have the verb with the ing from the progressive, so the main verb, wonder, plus ing for progressive. And then you have the complementizer phrase, if, and then it goes on for you or I could, or you would. I appreciate you taking the time to watch my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to email me at winansmd@gmail.com. I look forward to it. Thank you.